Howdy everyone, just wanted to jump on here and kind of give an update and talk about homesteading on a budget. Okay, so we're coming into Christmas. Christmas is 5 days away. Um, we are about 4 weeks away from butchering these birds. We have meat birds on the ground right now. These birds are Pioneer brand. So what are some things that you can do if you're on a budget, you don't have a lot of money, but you want to grow your own food? Let's talk about it. If you try to build your own chicken tractor, which we have built many chicken tractors, the prices of lumber and the prices of fencing and tin, it can be quite a bit depending on what style and what design you use for your chicken tractor. You can get anywhere up to 3, 4, 500 bucks per chicken tractor. So if you're on a budget and you're not trying to spend that and you want to do something simple, um, you can do what we did. We did this a couple years ago and we had really good success. We did it again this year just to kind of show that we wanted to make a video about homesteading on a budget. And these materials are typically, they're free for the taking for the most part. Sometimes you might have to pay a little uh, for these, but basically, if you can see behind me or see next to me, we're looking at a trampoline frame. Now this thing looks kind of messy. It uh, kind of looks ugly on the homestead sometimes, but most of this was free. So excuse the wind, it's really windy, but this thing was free. So we got a trampoline frame and we wrapped it in welded wire. The welded wire ended up costing us about 60 bucks. Sometimes you can find that on Marketplace for a lot cheaper. Sometimes you have it laying around. We also took some chicken wire and put it on this open area right here. Yes, we have been feeding them pumpkins, but these meat birds are very happy. There's about 88, 89 birds, I believe we're down to 88 out of 100. And we're like 6 or 7 weeks in, so that's actually not bad percentage-wise of mortality. Um, but this thing's done great. This keeps the birds in, keeps them protected from predators. This is a pull tarp that we found, a pull liner. We found this liner on the side of the road. It was a big pull liner, and my wife had spotted it. We picked it up and ended up picking it up for free. Well, that's what we used for the roof. We stitched it. I cut a hole in it so we could have like a door to get access for feed and waterers. And then we have an extra tarp that we bought. That was maybe 15, 20 bucks. That's our door. Okay. Now we have high wind today. The wind's probably 20 to 30 miles an hour. And this thing is got enough weight to where it's not moving. It's not a parachute. You would think it would be. We've had that happen before, but it's functional. It gets the job done. You can hear my roosters over here in that garden. They're doing a great job, by the way. That thing right there is a chickshaw. If anybody knows who Justin Rhodes is, you can look up the Justin Rhodes Show, and he has his plans of a chickshaw. Now that one I bought from another fellow homesteader, but you can fit up between 30 to 40 birds in that thing, and it's mobile. You can move it around. You can put a fence around it and keep the birds busy, and where they're always eating or on grass, access to bugs, things like that. But these birds are extremely happy. They're getting really big. We're feeding them a non-GMO, corn-free, soy-free feed. And these birds are happy. They got plenty of space in here. It's about 88 birds, I think we're at right now. This thing we can turn so the wind's coming from the south, which is that direction. And we can turn this thing so the wind is off of them. I've got this open because today is supposed to be 74 degrees. So it's nice and warm. And we're going to let them enjoy the sun and the air and the grass. And they've got pumpkin they've been eating on. So these birds are happy. So that's one thing you can do if you want to raise your own meat birds and you're on a budget for your homestead, is you can pick up these trampoline frames for nothing. You might have a little bit of cost on welded wire or some kind of system to keep them inside. We have some chicken wire that we had left over, and then this pull liner was free. We have a tarp, some bungees. It's simple, it's functional. You know, we have had other designs that were a lot prettier, a lot more organized, and a lot better, but it also cost a lot more. So you gotta have to weigh that. So again, this does not have to be expensive to homestead, to grow your own food, okay? We ran the chickens through here, and all of these hay bales, for the most part, I don't think we spent a dime on any of the hay bales. We're coming into Christmas. we took advantage of the fall where everybody bought pumpkins and hay bales. They had them as decorations on their porch, or they used them for hay rides. And we ended up jumping on Marketplace or Facebook, and we saw that all these people had pumpkins and hay that they wanted to give away for free. Some of them had them for sale, but we just took a pickup truck and we went around and we picked up free pumpkins and free hay or straw, whatever. And now we're using it to build our soil. Okay, we put this down behind the chickens to help the manure get metabolized by the soil. This helps speed up the process. This helps the decomposition process, because when you're running birds and you're trying to build soil, you are helping the decomposition process, which is what you want. You want to build soil. Okay, we can do that. We can talk about that in another video. That's soil science, right? So this is kind of our storage shed. It's actually a 26-foot truck container that was like sitting around, nobody was using. We turned it into a brooder slash storage shed for our feed, hay, and whatever else we're needing for the farm. So it's sitting in the back corner of the pasture. That's all we did, is just turn it into a brooder slash storage shed. Now, excuse the holes. We had baseball-sized hail come through one day with a storm, and so these are all patches. I patched all these up to keep it waterproof and watertight in here. This is our brooder. Okay, right now we don't have any chicks in here, but we did. It's now feed storage. It's our feed storage, and we still have the bedding in there from this batch of meat birds that we just did. Now this horse trough I found on Marketplace for about 150 bucks. We went and picked it up. I built a frame around it. I put a wall down the center. We still have to finish this side over here. We're going to finish that side here shortly. That's another project I got to do. But these two spaces, it's divided in half, can brood up to 250 birds, 250 chicks to prepare for pasture. You put the chicks in here when you get them up to 3 to 4 weeks. We've got our heat lamps all ready to go. So we're probably going to end up doing it a little bit before spring to do the next batch. But this didn't cost very much to do. This is, you got to get bedding. Of course, your feed. These hinges we got for free. You just got to be creative. Obviously, I'm talking about chickens. We've done a lot of work with the chickens, layers, and meat birds. That's kind of the start to a homestead. Obviously, gardens. Okay, if you understand how soil works and you understand systems, then you use your chickens to prepare your gardens. So this is another system that you can implement. This garden here, which starts at this fence line, and it actually goes, you can see the border of the railroad ties, it goes to there. Okay, this is what it typically looks like, because grass took it over. Okay, this is my wife's uncle's garden. Well, the grass pretty much showed up because they tried to till it. And when you till things, there's a saying that the earth, Mother Nature, she likes to be covered. She's modest, right? You want to cover Mother Nature. When it's bare dirt and you till, that is when you basically wipe out all the microbes in the top 3 inches, because in the top 3 inches, from 1 to 3 inches on the top layer, that's where all your microbes are. You want to feed the microbes. You don't want to wipe out the microbes. So you cover the soil, whether that's with carbon, wood chips, straw, hay. It could be a whole truckload of corn cobs, silage, pecan hulls and husk, or walnuts, any form of carbon or organic material that you can put down in bulk, and it'll actually build soil. Okay, if you have chickens to add to that process, they add their manure. You add the chickenness of the chicken, as Joel Salatin says, and the chickens will go through it and turn it into soil, compost almost. They're great for that. So the problem here was the grass took over the garden. In permaculture, we learned that you can turn every problem into a solution. So the solution to this problem is we have about 20 chickens, and they're turning this back into a garden. They're preparing it for spring. They're going to go through, they're going to start tilling up the grass lightly. They're going to eat all the bugs in here. They're going to break down any food scraps or pumpkins that we throw in there, which is carbon. Okay, and they're going to slowly work this garden. They already have been for a couple weeks. Now, when they're done here, I'm going to go through with a rake, and I'm going to kind of scratch at it, and I'm going to try to get some of this grass out of here, and I'm going to end up putting a layer of some kind of compost, maybe mushroom or horse composted manure I'm going to put in here, and then I might even get wood chips. When they're done here, we're going to move them here, and they're going to do the same thing there. Okay, and you can do this throughout your entire landscape. chickens are a great tool to use. Now, chickens are good to start with. They're smaller animals. If you want to ramp it up, you can go to pigs, you can go to goats. Problem with goats is they got to have things to eat. If they run out of things to eat, then that's when they start trying to break out of fences, and that's where they're Houdinis, and they're going to go find feed elsewhere. So goats, in particular, are a much better tool for forested systems, for woods. That's why you see all these videos of all these guys with their goats, and they go through and they start just letting the goats eat all the brush and the small trees and the leaves, and I mean they eat it all the way up to 6 feet, depending on the size of the goat. So again, talking about budget, I have a structure that's mobile for the chickens. I'm using them to prepare my gardens or prepare other people's gardens or whatever. They're good for that. Okay. We invested in those birds. They're giving us eggs. They're also doing the work for you instead of you having to do the work of the garden. And when this is ready, then you can plant and it's going to thrive in the springtime. Okay, so something I want to point out real quick. Another resource, if you have trees. Now, we don't have a lot of trees on this landscape, but you do see leaves, which means we have a couple trees. This is a pretty good mature one here. Leaves. Okay, what do most people do in the fall and in the winter when they see leaves on the ground? They rake them up because it doesn't look good. Okay, the mindset of that thinking, if it doesn't look good, so I'm going to rake up all the leaves and I'm going to put them on the side of the road. Throw that out of your mind. Okay, this is free carbon. Okay, God designed it to where trees, okay, trees drop carbon, a layer of leaves every year to feed the soil. Okay, so if you see leaves on the ground, leave them there, no pun intended. Instead, if you have a mower or you have a way to shred them up to help the decomposition process go faster, then mow them, and that will shred them into small pieces, and that'll feed the soil. It'll feed the worms and the bugs, and that would be a much better practice to do than to rake them all up, put them in a bag, and put them on the side of the road where they're not going to do any good for anybody. Okay? Take advantage of the things that are at your fingertips and at your hand instead of looking at it as a waste product where you try to get it off your property. Okay? Don't do that. All right, so let's talk about this yard right here. Right now, it's a front yard, and it's been a front yard for a little while. But before this building was here, and before it became a front yard, many years ago, we were going to turn it into an orchard. And the soil here is blackland prairie. So when it rains, blackland prairie has a lot of clay. So when it rains, it kind of floods, and it gets very muddy and very mucky. Okay, it's not fun to mess with. It's very hard to grow certain things because the roots have a hard time punching through. Okay, there's a lot of nutrients, but the plants have a hard time, and even the grass has a hard time tapping into those nutrients. So in order to remedy that, you have to build on top of the blackland prairie instead of tilling it up, which is not going to do. It's actually going to tilling it is going to make it worse, and then also mowing it all the time, overgrazing it with animals. You're going to make the whole situation worse. This is North Texas. We don't do that. If you want to rebuild soil, listen to what I'm telling you to do. So this all ties into homesteading on a budget. Another free resource that you can tap into that's everywhere, okay, is wood chips. A lot of the tree companies go around and they're trimming these trees, and they're always trying to find places to dump the wood chips because otherwise they have to drive 30, 40 miles to go take those wood chips, and they have to pay the place they're dropping it off at sometimes 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks to drop a load. If they know of a homestead or a farm that's close to them where they're working, and you go find them and seek them out, or you get on chipdrop.com, okay, they will bring the wood chips to you. Wood chips are a wonderful free resource if you can get your hands on them. So a couple years ago, I hunted down one of those tree guys, and I had him bring 20, well, him and his crew, his group of trucks, they brought 20 loads of wood chips just on this property. We had them lined up. And those piles sat for a couple months, which I call that marinating. They marinated for a couple months. And once those piles hit the ground, every worm in the vicinity flocked to that area, okay? You can't see that underground, but if you understand the basic principles of soil building and feeding the soil, you know that the worms flock to that kind of thing. Well, I think it was the following spring, my wife used to plant her gardens here, and every seed that was still in the ground from her gardens started coming up through those wood chips, and they started going through the piles. We had cantaloupe coming out of our ears. Okay. Well, one day, I believe in the fall, after the piles had kind of been marinating for a little while, I rented a skid steer, and I ended up spreading those wood chips about 2 feet thick over this plot of land. And of course, my in-laws were looking at me like I was crazy because they don't understand this stuff. They don't understand soil science. They know about the conventional models like this crap that you see across the road on the other side of the farm where they till everything. That's all your monocrop. We've already talked about that. Well, within about 3 months, the worms showed up that you couldn't see on the top of the surface, but we knew they were underground because when you have organic material in that bulk show up on raw ground, the worms are going to show up, and they did. They ate it down in 3 months to about 4 inches, which built the soil up. So then the following rainstorm that we got after that 3 months, we probably ended up getting 3 to 4 inches of rain. You could walk on top of those wood chips and not get your feet wet because the wood chips were dispersing the water evenly. And that's what they do. And now that soil and that grass, which we had coastal Bermuda shoot up through those wood chips, which coastal Bermuda will only show up when the soil is at a certain point of high quality. Okay, if it's low quality soil, which if you can look here, you've got weeds coming up. Weeds are trying to fix your soil. This right here is like horrible. You see the cracks? Because nature is modest and likes to be covered. When you till or you do things to the soil, this is what it's going to look like, and it's going to do nothing for you. If you can get the soil to where you need it to be, then it can do things for you. It'll be a place where you can graze it. It can feed your family. It can feed your animals, and you don't have to feed hay. Eventually, you can get it to that point. So about a year or two after we did all that on this here, typically every winter and every fall and every summer, because summer's hot here, this was the greenest and most prettiest part of the entire land in this area because of the wood chips. Now, it's not being utilized anymore, so it's kind of going back to what it used to be because it's been a few years since anything's been done with it. They mow it, and that's about it. It's kind of hard to see it that way, but it is what it is. Now, you can do this anywhere. It doesn't just have to be on a piece like that. You can do this anywhere, and you can build your soil, you can raise the quality of it, and you can see wonderful results. Wood chips, wood chips, wood chips. Now, with raising these birds, and every time we move them, we typically put straw or hay or any organic material you can get your hands on to help the soil metabolize the nitrogen load that they just got from the birds. Okay? Well, a lot of these things that we're using are free resources. Straw, hay, wood chips, even leaves. You can go through most of the neighborhoods down the road in these big developed neighborhoods, and what do you find? You find bags of leaves, 4 or 5 at a time at one house. Go with your pickup truck. They're all on the side of the road to get rid of anyway. Go pick them up, and that can become your medium to help with the soil to build it, or to become organic material to break down and build your soil. So let's talk about one more free resource that you can take advantage of, that you can look for. Okay, let's talk about trees. Behind me, if you look, you can see a line of trees, and this is typically an area here that the county or the state or whatever is going to maintain. Okay, they're going to come through here and they're going to mow all this. Okay, it's basically a ditch line. But if you notice, underneath this tree, there's a couple of trees right here. Those are cedar, juniper, eastern red cedar. Well, guess what? Those are free trees, and they usually pop up everywhere. If you look down this fence line, down there's some more at the base of those other trees. Those are basically small trees. Why are we talking about trees? Well, these trees are a free resource. Why do you want trees on your property? Well, because they have a lot of benefits for you. If you're in an area that is literally all the trees have been wiped out except for the tree line, okay, then you're going to need trees on your property because they're going to create microclimates. They're going to create shade because it gets hot. It's really hot here in Texas. And shade is your best friend. If you have mature trees like this on your property, it can knock down your temperature 20 degrees just in the shade. Well, that's a benefit for your animals. It's a benefit for your soil and your grass so that that's not getting cooked. Okay? This is how the Indians used to manage the land. They didn't just go through and wipe everything out so they can make $1 off of monocrop fields. This tree right here is just about as tall as I am. Okay, you can dig that up if you can get through the root system. It's good to get them when they're younger, but you can uproot this tree and you can transplant it on your property because it's basically a free tree. It's growing underneath an area that's maintained by the county. Okay, and then you can strategically place these trees in areas on your property that can become windbreaks. They can become places to put them along your swale lines if you're trying to channel water a certain direction on your property. Okay, to get your property to hold water, you can plant certain things that you want to grow along that swale and underneath those trees so that you can feed yourself, or you can feed your livestock, or they can be for soil control, soil to prevent soil erosion. Okay, all these things go together. So if you're homesteading on a budget, this is another free resource. So if you just pay attention and you train your eyes to look for certain things, these are just some of the things you can do to take advantage of the free resources and the free things that are out there to homestead and to grow your own food, build your own soil, and take advantage of the things that literally God has provided. Okay. Now, when it comes to the trampoline frames, that's just how the system is. A lot of people give away trampoline frames. Well, turn your problem of not having a chicken tractor, and if you don't have a lot of money to build one, into a solution by getting a trampoline frame for free off marketplace or for 20 bucks, whatever, and turn it into a chicken tractor to grow your own meat birds and put your own chicken in the freezer. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, the stuff that they're selling in the store coming from Tyson, there's things in that shouldn't be in that, and chicken grown ways that it shouldn't be grown, if you catch my drift. So I hope this helps you and paints a picture of the things you can do if you're on a budget on the homesteading journey. So with that, I'm signing off. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Merry Christmas. And I'm going to keep putting more videos up like this. I hope you all have a blessed day. Permaculture Pat, signing off.